Hello, welcome back to another video. Today we got some David Fraser. Alberta drops a shocking 51st state bombshell in Canada in panic mode. This is honestly interesting to me. I find this interesting because I'm curious how this would even go about. Like how first and foremost Alberta would separate from Canada, what that process would be, and what the process would be for them to join America, if that's what they want to do. And from the looks of it looks like that's what they might want to do. Of course, I'm just speculating here, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. But I wonder how that would change the dynamic between America and Canada. And I wonder if other provinces in Canada would want to do the exact same thing if Alberta does succeed in doing this, and if Alberta becomes a state, a one of the states of the US. Then I'm interested to see how that would affect the borders, and I'm also interested to see whether they would be red or blue. But I mean, obviously, based off of the timing and everything, I feel like they'd probably vote more red than anything. They'd probably be a more conservative state because I mean they want to separate from Canada and join America. That's what we're guessing here. All right, this ain't 100% facts, okay? But yeah, I'm curious as to all of that.
Provinces have authority over matters within their jurisdiction, and that authority cannot be signed away by Ottawa. That's why we are taking the next step to defend Alberta's constitutional rights through Bill 1.
Alberta calling it quits with Canada after a 120-year-long marriage.
It finally happened. The line was crossed. Alberta just passed Bill 1, the International Agreements Act, and with that signature, everything changed. This isn't another sovereignty debate or independence chatter that fades after the news cycle. That is structured legal action that rewrites the relationship between Alberta and Ottawa. And more importantly, it's the first real step towards Alberta becoming the 51st state of the United States. Not just theoretical anymore, not just protest signs, this is paperwork in motion, and Ottawa is scrambling.
Ottawa can sign international agreements with other countries, that's their right.
I mean, in my opinion, they should be scrambling, because if they actually succeed with, as he said, divorcing Canada and joining the US, then that just might show the rest of Canada or the other provinces, like I said, hey, Alberta was able to do it, maybe we can do it too, and they might be able to, dip, and that would really affect Canada as a whole tremendously, because that would mean America would now have, or the US rather, would now have more land further north. It would have it would extend its border, meaning it would probably be even more border security, because we'd have whatever border security Alberta had. And if any other provinces want to, do the same thing, we'd have those provinces as part of our borders as well. And we could have, and it would also be beneficial because to have their people still maintain themselves as border security, because they already know the layout of the terrain and whatnot. They're already accustomed to it. You wouldn't have to exactly train new bodies. You would just have to essentially update them on the different laws that America has in play as opposed to Canada, But then again, then that also, speaking of laws, like Canada has their own laws and regulations and all that stuff. How would that affect the people, switching from Canadian laws to American laws? And I wonder how it would go for them, financially, because they would have to switch from the Canadian currency, because I don't know what their currency is called. I only know the goofy ones, like a loonie and a toonie. That's about it. but their currency would have to be swapped out for the American currency. You know, that would be a whole nother learning process, unless the values are the same. It's just different names, but I don't think they are. So yeah, like I said, this is very interesting because again, how would the people of Canada, of these Canadian provinces rather, how would they adjust? Would they adjust quickly? Would it take time? Would they adjust poorly? Would they not be able to adjust at all? It's very interesting. And not to mention, that's a whole bunch of that also creates certain problems here in America as well, because that's a whole bunch of social security cards we now have to make, social security numbers, chart the maps, update them. I mean, obviously, it'd be much easier to like update the maps and all that stuff at the borders, but it's like incorporating all those people from Canada to America would be very, very interesting. How the government would go about that, as well as what types of healthcare plans they're going to be offered and all that stuff, because like every state has their own type of healthcare and whatnot. So yeah, that would also be interesting to see. And I'm also curious if they would have some type of like thing I don't know if they'd have a government program like they do in Alaska, where if you go there they pay you to live there, but I don't think it's that much. But because they're not that far up north for that to be an incentive, so I don't think they'd have that. But yeah.
But this legislation, it makes it clear that those agreements will only become enforceable in Alberta if implemented under provincial legislation.
I've been tracking this movement for years, watching it grow from rural frustration to organized political force. Bill 1 is the breakthrough moment. What it does is simple but devastating. Any international agreement Ottawa signs, any climate deal, any net zero commitment, any carbon policy, none of it applies to Alberta unless Alberta's own legislator passes it. That's not provincial pushback. That's how independent countries operate. You don't get to control international agreements unless you're acting like a nation. And that's exactly what Alberta just declared itself to be.
Honestly, that's good for Alberta. Because, like, realistically, if the people there are seeing that the government is doing something, and it's like, and the thing that they're doing realistically shouldn't be affecting Alberta, yeah, I'd be a little annoyed, and I'd be like, yo, can we like do something about that? So yeah, like if like they said, the government is this other province is doing things that Alberta doesn't agree with, and the people of Alberta don't agree with, they don't have to adopt whatever it is that they agree to. They can make their own terms, and that's actually really good, because that keeps them independent from the rest of the other provinces, and their like you said, their rules and regulations won't apply. Whatever, not rules and regulations, but whatever deals they make won't affect Alberta if they continue with this. I mean, it shouldn't affect them right now, if I'm understanding this correctly to begin with.
A few thousand people waved royal blue Alberta flags Saturday in front of the legislature, declaring their province would be better off without Canada.
The breaking point came when the data became undeniable. 43% of Albertans now support joining the United States. That's almost half the province ready to abandon Confederation entirely. This isn't emotional rebellion, it's economic calculation. Alberta's been carrying Canada's economy for decades, sending billions eastward while watching its own energy products get strangled by federal red tape. The patience isn't just running out, it's already gone.
Yeah, not gonna lie. I would be annoyed too if I was Alberta. Like, if we're sending like if I was sending money to these other places and essentially supplementing their income with my own personal income, and and they were telling me, oh, you can't do this actually. By the way, we're going to be annoying when you try to do this. Oh, yeah, we're also going to make it excruciatingly difficult for you to do this. I'd be like, bro, you're taking my money and you're not allowing me to like develop myself further. What? How does that work? I'd be like, all right, you want to cover me in red tape? Go buy your own red tape then. I'm gonna stop paying for it.
When you've got GDP per capita over $90,000 and you're still treated
Goddamn.
like the problem child instead of the breadwinner, something has to break. That breaking point arrived with Bill 1.
Our economy has suffered tremendous damage. This country has lost out on tens of billions of dollars in investment and countless opportunities for growth. Alberta won't pay that price again.
Every meeting in Edmonton now feels like an exit preparation. Premier Danielle Smith made it clear when she signed Bill 1. That either works with us and we'll get things done. If you overstep, Alberta will stand its ground. That's not negotiation language, that's an ultimatum. Ottawa can keep signing climate agreements with other countries all at once, but those agreements die at Alberta's border unless Alberta chooses to enforce them. The clean electricity regulations that were supposed to devastate the entire energy sector, dead unless Alberta votes to implement them. The Impact Assessment Act that gave Ottawa veto power over provincial projects, nullified by provincial law. And suddenly the federal government understands what's happening. You can see the panic in every statement, every promise to consult after years of dictating. Because Bill 1 doesn't just protect Alberta's jurisdiction, it establishes the legal framework for operating independently of federal authority. That's the foundation you build before you announce a referendum. That's the infrastructure you need before you ask people to choose between Confederation and
See, this is what I mean by this is very interesting to me because it's like their government is structured so differently from ours. And I'm just like, wow, that's so interesting because it's like here it's completely different in America. The federal government is at the top. It's more like a pyramid, actually. Our government is more like a pyramid of who's in charge. It's like at the peak of the pyramid, you have the federal government, then the state government, then your local government, you know, stuff like that. So, they can't swap or anything because we decided that, that's how it was going to be long ago. It was called the Revolutionary War. So, yeah, I'm just like, God damn. It's just very curious to see that, the dynamic between the province and the federal government being so different. But I guess that's how it is when you have an entirely different government system than you know. Let's see. What is the Canadian government system? Canadian. Nope, that ain't it. Okay, Canadian government system. No. Okay, so apparently they have three. They're a federation, a constitutional monarchy, and a parliamentary democracy. Okay, so they're a parliamentary. Okay, so they're not a republic, a democratic republic like America. Interesting. Okay, so let's see here. According to this, a parliamentary democracy is a system where the executive branch, the government, is drawn from and accountable to the legislature, the parliament. In this system, the head of the government, typically a prime minister, is chosen from the majority party in parliament, while the head of the state is often a separate ceremonial figure, such as a monarch or president. This differs from a presidential system where the executive and legislative branches are separate and the president is elected independently by the people. Ah, okay, okay. Interesting. I wonder what this looks like in a diagram. Oh, okay. I see. So the electorate elects a parliament, and then the parliament elect a head of cabinet. From the looks of it. Okay, so citizens elect legislative, and then legislative selects executive, while in a presidential, citizens elect both executive and legislative. Okay, I see. Very interesting. Like I said, it's all very interesting to me.
Statehood.
And like I said, since their government is structured differently, how would they be able to, acclimate to the shift in government? Like this is what I'd be interested in. How would it affect their transition? Would they even be able to transition from Canadian government to American government? And how, if so, how easy or difficult would that transition be? Because right now they're self-governing, but if they become a state, then they essentially become like America with our government. But at the same time, I mean, I guess that's one of the reasons why they'd want to, separate from Canada, is because they want whatchamacallit, um they want more of a say, and they want to have more voting power, because as I just talked about when I looked up the different systems, they don't have that much in who controls the executive. But here we vote on both executive and legislative. So, was it executive and legislative? God damn it. I just saw it and I just forgot. Yeah, executive and legislative. So, yeah.
I just want to put it out there. If we had built Northern Gateway, which was approved and cancelled by Trudeau, if we'd built Energy East, which was advanced, but then pulled the plug because they couldn't see their way through to getting approval, if we'd built Keystone XL, if the federal government had advocated for 1 minute on our behalf to keep that pipeline going, we would have had an additional 2.5 million barrels per day of production today.
The irony is almost painful.
That's
Ottawa
so
spends
sad,
years
dude.
blocking pipelines and imposing carbon taxes, while 99% of Alberta's oil flows south to American refineries anyway. The federal government pretends it's defending Canadian sovereignty, but the entire energy system already depends on the United States. Alberta.
Bro, imagine if Canada had control of that oil instead of America. Canada would be a literal powerhouse financially. Their own government screwed them over from being able to make more money because the American dollar is now backed by oil instead of gold ever since Nixon.
Sees it. The people here aren't stupid. They know their oil heats American homes and fuels American industry. They're just tired of Ottawa taking credit and cash while providing nothing but obstacles.
Some like Colin.
It would also be not only would that oil, if they had control over it, it would be so fucking great for them, because they could essentially do insane business with America, and America would have a literal local supply of oil, because it would literally be coming from our north. Like, and from our north, I don't mean like from America's north. I mean from our continental north. It would still be coming from North America. It wouldn't be coming from like example Saudi Arabia or some Middle Eastern country, from one of the oil princes over there. It would instead be coming from the oil queen, Canada. But no, they decided, nah. They decided Alberta, nah, you don't need that. Why be a literal oil powerhouse, right?
Krumka believe federal equalization payments and environmental laws have limited Alberta.
I've worked 44 years in the oil patch, and the East has always taken from here.
78% of Albertans say the federal...
Yeah, see, I'd be annoyed too. Like, look at that. People are annoyed. And by people, I mean this one dude. But like, you could see, like he says it. He's worked there for years, and the only real obstacle is the province in the East. you know? Uh, and I don't blame them for being fed up, because I would be too. It's like if you're it's like if you lived on a block and you were on the far west end, and and the person on the far east end started dictating when you could cut your grass, what time you have to, have all your lights off, dictates what color your house could be. Essentially kind of like an HOA, but instead of it being an HOA, it's only one person. And anytime you try to do anything to your house, this one person interjects and makes your life a living hell. That's essentially what it's like.
Government disrespects them. That's not a communication gap, that's institutional rejection. When 4 out of 5 people in your wealthiest province say that they feel ignored, you've lost legitimacy. The economic engine is detaching from the national grid, and Ottawa's only now realizing that the country can't function without it. Every emergency meeting, every desperate unity speech just confirms what Alberta already knows. They were never listening before, and they're only paying attention now because they're scared of losing the money.
As you develop the means to take care of your own affairs, then you start taking care of more of your own affairs. Are we at that point now? That's what we're asking about.
So here's what's being built on the ground.
You know what's funny? That's exactly what Trump ran on as well. It's he ran on the fact that, we're trying to clean up other countries' affairs when our own affairs aren't even anywhere remotely close to being settled whatsoever. And he ran with an America First policy. Alberta, I don't know if she's what she is, if she would be a but we'll just call her like the governor. So the governor of Alberta, she's like she's putting an Alberta first agenda on the board, and she's like, Alberta supplies all this money to the rest of Canada, and it sends it all this money to the east. Yet we're struggling, and every time we try to make it so that we cannot struggle, you guys are being a thorn on our side. And it's like they're literally biting the hand that feeds them.
Bill 1 establishes legal sovereignty over international agreements. But the legal terms in Edmonton, they're not stopping there. They're studying the constitutional pathway to full separation, and more specifically, to statehood. Not independence, where Alberta goes it alone and prays that it works. Statehood, where Alberta joins an economy that already consumes its resources and operates under rules that reward production instead of punishing it.
The Alberta Prosperity Project organized this rally, a group that wants the referendum question, do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become a sovereign country and cease to be a province in Canada?
The infrastructure for this transition already exists. Organizations like the Alberta Prosperity Project, led by figures like Dennis Maudry, they've been organizing referendum campaigns for years. Volunteer networks are trained, petition drives are moving through every city and town, legal scholars are mapping the Clarity Act requirements, treating them not as barriers but as a checklist to complete. The question being prepared, it's not vague. The question being prepared isn't vague, it's direct. Should Alberta pursue statehood with the United States? That specificity matters because it gives people a real alternative. And
bro, you know what's so fucking funny right now? The fact that while I'm watching this, I was like, man, I could go for Perrier. We have some outside. I'm gonna go grab one when I'm done recording and have like 1 or 2 with my food. Then something on screen catches my eye, and I'm like, what is that? Literally right behind me, I see a bottle of Perrier on her table. I'm sold. Alberta can be the 51st state of America. I'm sold. She drinks Perrier. That's all I needed to know.
this abstract independence.
Quebec has had a similar framework requiring provincial consent already in effect.
The economic case speaks for itself. Under Confederation, Alberta creates wealth and Ottawa redistributes it. Billions flow east through equalization payments every single year, funding provinces that have built budgets around Alberta's forced contributions. Under U.S. statehood, Alberta keeps what it earns. Oil revenue stays in Alberta. Resource profits fund Alberta's infrastructure. Tax dollars build Alberta's hospitals instead of disappearing into federal programs designed in Ottawa.
You know what's funny? I quickly Googled the Canadian provinces because I wanted to know what the layout is of these areas, so that way I can at least picture how it would look on a map. And I just looked at how Alberta is structured. Alberta is literally built almost like Nevada. Oh, let me see. Yeah, yeah, it is Nevada. Yeah, it's built almost like Nevada. I'm sorry. I saw that. I don't know why. I found that so funny. British Columbia is also built almost like California. It's built like a shorter, chubbier California. I don't know. It's funny, but I'm just looking at it and I'm like, if let's see here. If they did join America, let's see here. Images. I want this blown the fuck up on my screen. It's very interesting. Let's see. That's Alberta. Alberta would be above, what is that? Montana? Yeah, Montana. Yeah, it would be it's bordering Montana. Literally only Montana. That's insane. But yeah, it creates this interesting border into Canada. But the way I see it is like, if Alberta were to join America, and then let's say Saskatchewan followed, it would be cool to see British Columbia as well. And the reason I say that is because if British Columbia joins, that creates a very nice, easy access to Alaska. You know, and it would make and essentially Alaska would if you know British Columbia did the same thing, and you know, well, not the same thing, but like if British Columbia joined America and so did Alberta, we'd have a nice nice instant connection to Alaska. And Alaska would actually be connected to the United States of America, border-wise. Which would create this massive coastal border. We would essentially control the entire northern Pacific Ocean. I mean, we kind of already do, but I mean, we'd have, you know, the entire, from the tippity tip of Alaska all the way down to the Mexican American border. Like I said, like I said at the start, this fascinates me. I like this. This is interesting to me.
That's not a
I'll keep reiterating that.
theory. That's exactly how Texas operates, every North Dakota operates, every American state operates. The wealth stays where it's created, and the people who produce it get to decide how it's spent. Stays in Alberta. Resource profits fund Alberta's infrastructure. Tax dollars build Alberta's hospitals instead.
I'm actually sorry to pause again. I'm actually curious how Alberta would compare to like the other states, GDP wise, and if Alberta could be, you know, as could be like compete with like California and Texas and Florida.
Of disappearing into federal programs designed in Ottawa. That's not a theory. That's exactly how Texas operates, every North Dakota operates, every American state operates. The wealth stays where it's created, and the people who produce it get to decide how it's spent.
Since the federal election, I've met with Prime Minister Mark Carney several times. I've told him the same thing every time, that Confederation works best when Ottawa respects the Constitution and provincial authority.
The legal pathway is being constructed with precision.
So Ottawa is the problematic child. All right, where is Ottawa on the map? Wait, what the fuck? Wait, I'm looking at these provinces. Where is Ottawa? What the fuck? Wait, what? It's not a city. Alberta. What the fuck is Ottawa, Canada? Oh, it's the capital of Canada. Okay. Where is that on a map? I need to see where it's located on the map. Okay. So it is in Ontario. Okay. Okay, that answers my question. I just tried to move my... Okay. I'm... Okay. Let's see here. Honestly, seeing where... Bro, honestly, if I were to make an American comparison, not gonna lie, what Ottawa's doing to Alberta is like it could be compared to like if New York City, New York, dictated how Texas handled its money and finances and put up like roadblocks in the state of Texas, even though it's the city of New York. That's how mind-blowing this is. Yeah, honestly, I understand where Canada's coming from. Or not Canada, but Alberta. I understand where Alberta's coming from. Also, not me playing so many Paradox maps that every time I go to Google Maps, I immediately start using my scroll wheel and clicking it to try to move the map. Paradox games have ruined me.
Alberta's lawyers are studying the Supreme Court's Quebec secession ruling like a roadmap. Clear question, clear majority, good faith negotiations. Every constitutional requirement is being mapped. And here's what Ottawa doesn't want to admit. If Alberta holds a referendum and wins, the federal government can't actually stop it. The Supreme Court established that Ottawa would be required to negotiate. And if those negotiations fail, Alberta has already proven through Bill 1 that it can operate independently of federal authority.
The Alberta separatism movement front and center in Calgary Monday night, with supporters packing a banquet hall to discuss why they think their province should leave Canada.
Inside the movement, confidence is building. When Premier Smith gets asked how far she's willing to go, whether...
You know what's funny? I find it funny that, you know, Alberta's doing this to Canada, considering the amount of times California has said they wanted, or people in California have said that they wish California would do this with America. And I'm just like, you do realize California would be boned without America, right? Like genuinely, California would be screwed. It wouldn't last. Like, let me tell you how this would go. The entire state could separate, and then you'd have these smaller counties that are red-leaning separating from the state to rejoin, you know, the U.S. and essentially just expanding the borders of, you know, Arizona and Nevada. That's all it would do, realistically. Because it would only be the liberal coastal cities that would want to do that and be on board with that. But then if California did do that, how would Gavin Newsom arise to presidency? Even though he's never gonna, if we're being honest.
She'd invoke the Clarity Act and call a referendum. Her answer points directly to the grassroots. The Alberta Prosperity Project, the organized campaigns, the people collecting signatures. That's not dismissal, that's validation. The Premier of Alberta just acknowledged the statehood movement as legitimate political pressure. That's how far this conversation has shifted.
I think we need to stand up, because if we don't stand up, we're just going to be bowled over.
Every federal policy failure accelerates the timeline. Every blocked pipeline, every emission cap, every carbon tax increase becomes another recruitment tool. Ottawa thinks it's enforcing climate responsibility. Alberta sees economic warfare from its own government. And when your government treats
you... The issue is, how can you claim that you're doing all these things for the environment when they propose the things that would help the environment and you still say no? It's like saying, oh my God, you know, pasta's unhealthy for you. But then someone provides the healthier alternative to pasta, and you're like, no, I don't want that. Get that away from me. I want regular pasta. But you, at the same time, you're creating laws that, you know, don't give you normal pasta. It's like, what are we doing here?
You like the enemy long enough, you start looking for better options. The United States doesn't just look better, it looks like the only rational choice left.
Talk of Western separation.
Yeah, I mean, if you were to look at a map, it's kind of their only option, because they're quite literally in the center of Canada. They're landlocked. They have, from what I can see, no actual access to the ocean whatsoever. Which is wild. Yeah, like I'm looking at the map, at Google Maps, and there is they're boned. So yeah, like it kind of sucks, but that would essentially be their only option, would be to join the US. Because they wouldn't be able to establish trade routes anywhere. They would essentially they would either have to try to negotiate trade routes through Canada, which they just separated, or through America. I feel like it would just be better for them to join America, so that way they could reap the benefits of, you know, the fact that they're now a state in America. Not to mention, Alberta's fucking massive. Like, it's a lot of land. Now, granted, it doesn't have that many cities from what I can see. Like, and by cities, I mean like major cities, like Edmonton. But there is a lot of forest, and you know what that tells me? That would mean that America would have a nice steady supply of lumber as well. You know, which would mean that if we import our lumber, we wouldn't have to import it as much, because we would have you know, the import from Alberta. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. Not to mention, they would probably be able to build the Keystone pipeline that they wanted to build, which would be even better. You know, get that shit reopened.
Steps of the Alberta legislature. Hundreds gathered to advocate for independence.
There's no confusion anymore about where this leads. The conversation in Alberta isn't about preserving Confederation or finding compromise. It's about execution and timing. Town halls are packed with people asking practical questions about currency conversion, passport transitions, and tax structure under statehood. These aren't theoretical discussions. These are logistical planning sessions. The mood has shifted from should we to how do we and when exactly. That mental transition is what makes this moment different from every other Western alienation crisis that Canada has survived before.
A significant move from both Premiers Ford and Smith to push forward the idea of creating an east-west pipeline and rail corridors.
The economics of statehood are undeniable. Alberta stops sending billions of dollars east and starts investing locally. New pipelines get built without federal votes. New pipelines get built without federal vetoes. Energy projects move forward based on merit instead of political theater. Infrastructure gets...
It's funny. It's funny because I thought to myself, oh, what happens to it once they get all the crazies that want to petition the pipeline and all this shit? And then I think to myself, I'm like, it's pretty cold in Canada. If they decide to build these during the winter, then ain't no one gonna be protesting out there. Let me tell you that. Ain't no one gonna be out there protesting in the dead of winter in Canada for these oil pipelines to not be built. I'll tell you that much. Because goddamn, ain't no one gonna be out there standing in the snow of their own accord, not getting paid to petition a pipeline being built, while these guys are probably like drinking their hot coffee, hot chocolate, cocoa, whatever have you. And they're just like fully decked out in their company provided warm gear, winter gear, all warm and shit, just watching these idiots like, man, it must suck to be them. If they do protest. I don't know why. I just thought that'd be funny.
Funded without begging Ottawa for permission. Under American rules, states control their own resources and keep their own revenue. That's the system that Alberta wants. That's the system that makes Bill 1 look like step 1 instead of the final answer. Ottawa's panic is justified. Losing Alberta means losing over 20% of Canada's GDP and the most critical energy infrastructure on the continent. The equalization formula collapses without Alberta's contributions. Eastern provinces face budget cuts that they've never even imagined. The federal tax base shrinks catastrophically. This isn't political drama, it's economic arithmetic, and the numbers say Canada cannot survive without Alberta's wealth.
In a social media post Friday, Smith praising the fact that the vast majority of Alberta goods sold to the U.S., such as oil, gas, and agricultural products, remain tariff-free.
Trade patterns make statehood logical.
Yeah, see, like I said, if they were to join, all those resources would immediately become American resources, and they wouldn't have to worry about tariffs or any of that kind of stuff, because, they would already be getting paid by the federal government for those goods. Their state would receive compensation. Capitalism, baby.
The pipelines already run south. Rail lines already connect to American markets. Export terminals already ship to U.S. refineries. Joining the United States doesn't require building new systems. It means removing the Canadian government that's blocking the ones that already exist. International trade becomes domestic distribution. Every barrier disappears. Every shipment gets faster and cheaper.
By the looks of it, in the spring of 2026, Alberta, one way or another, will be getting its independence vote.
Investors.
Oh, shit.
The moment Alberta announces a referendum date, the American capital floods in. Energy corporations that have been waiting on the sidelines invest billions overnight. The legal uncertainty that kept them cautious evaporates when Alberta...
Honestly, like Alberta has been saying, they can only get net positives from doing this. And regardless, realistically, the smart choice would be to join the US, because you'd have the backing of the United States economy. And everything that was, imported and exported from the US, like he said, now becomes domestic. And it's able to move easily and freely no matter what. There will never be roadblocks. And you don't got to worry about, signing papers and all this stuff, because they would no longer be Alberta resources. They'd be American resources, and they would be shared, freely, or well, not, I say freely, but obviously there'd be some exchange financially to the state of Alberta. to in this hypothetical, there would be some federal compensation to the state of Alberta for the goods that they provide to the U.S. You know, and it would just help their economy grow.
Operates under
Nothing but net positives.
U.S. jurisdiction. Alberta's energy sector has never lacked potential. It lacked freedom from Ottawa's interference. Statehood removes that problem permanently, and Washington sees it. The United States isn't publicly endorsing Alberta's statehood movement because that creates diplomatic problems with Canada. But strategically, they understand this opportunity. Stable energy.
Yeah, but okay, here's the thing though. The government can't say, yes, we support you, Alberta, with your endeavors. They can't. But the private American companies, they can. Because they're private companies. They can invest their money wherever they want. They're not limited. Just like if they wanted to suddenly start investing their money in, you know, German engineering, you know, for their expertise in tanks. Yeah, they could do that, you know, and realistically, why should anyone bat an eye what investors want to invest their money in? They're investors, they're entrepreneurs. They invest their money in weird things all the time. I mean, hell, Mark Cuban owns or owned one of those two, a basketball team. It's like, bro, the dude from Shark Tank owns a basketball team. It's like Lady Gaga and Polaroid. Like, what?
Energy supply on their northern border, a region rich in oil, natural gas, and critical minerals. A partner that wants to be there instead of being forced. This isn't annexation, it's alignment of interests that benefits both sides. American strategic planners see what Alberta offers: energy security that doesn't depend on the Middle East politics or transatlantic shipping lanes. That's worth more than any diplomatic courtesy to Ottawa.
You have to.
It would literally be literal liquid gold would be flowing into America. We would quite literally have a river of liquid gold coming in from Alberta into America if they did this because of the oil.
Build out the new energy system at the same time as maintaining the existing.
Alberta's resources already fuel American industry. The integration is complete. It just needs a new political label. No federal subsidies, no equalization blackmail, no bureaucratic permission required. The province that's been punished for productivity finally operates under rules that reward it. That's what statehood offers. That's what Bill 1 just made possible. Canada is at a cliff edge. Every deadline that passes without reform, every block project, every tax increase, every empty unity speech brings that split closer. Ottawa has one window left to negotiate real autonomy: fiscal control, resource sovereignty with export independence. But that window is closing fast, and the credibility needed.
Not gonna lie, I think even if I don't think Ottawa would give them everything that they want. And I think Alberta should, in my opinion, should demand everything that they want. Because Ottawa has been screwing them over for God knows how long. So that's why I believe that even that no matter what, Alberta should just go through with it and just you know, separate. Unless they can get 100% of what they want. But here's the thing. Even if they get 100% of what they want right now, that doesn't mean that Ottawa won't start doing the exact same stuff they've been doing again later on down the line. That's why, in my opinion, I feel like they should, you know, say screw it, we're separating and we're joining America, you know, or being our own independent thing. One of those two. Because even if they agree right now, later on down the line, Ottawa could just start putting up the red tape again and start making life absolute hell for Alberta. And it's like, realistically, do the people of Alberta want to risk that? If you ask me, I wouldn't. I personally wouldn't want to risk, you know, okay, we're good now, but down the line, you might start doing this again. And I honestly don't want to risk that for future generations to have to go through this a second time. So I think we'll just, you know, head out the door. That's the route that I would go personally.
To use it is already gone. 2026 is the year circled on every calendar, the referendum year. Alberta moves first, Saskatchewan watches closely, Manitoba calculates its position. The map of North America starts redrawing itself through democratic choice and economic reality. Bill 1 wasn't the end, it's the beginning. And Alberta just told Ottawa that federal authority is optional now. And if you're already acting like a country, the only question left is which flag you fly. Right now, 51 stars looks a lot more likely than the maple leaf.
Bro, yo, you know what would be funny? If for let's say we do get it. Let's say that that Alberta does join America. You know what I say? I say fuck it. We don't give them stars. We instead turn the stars that they would be into little maple leaves just to fuck with Canada. They don't know the patent on the maple leaf. They don't own the patent on the maple leaf on the flag design. Plus, it's different. Plus, look at the UK and Australia. Let's not get into Italy and Mexico. Oh my God, what's the major difference? You throw a cactus, an eagle, and a snake on it. Now, obviously, I understand the symbolism behind it, but like Italy and Mexico, the flag is the same. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but isn't Ireland's flag literally horizontal Italy? Like, so it's like you can't hit me with a no. You be like no. Let Alberta keep the maple leaf, but instead of a 51st, they become a state. But instead of a 51st star, it now becomes a little row of maple leaves. And every single time a Canadian province leaves Canada and joins America, they get their own little maple leaf. That's what I say. We do with the flag. Something fun and quirky. But yeah, if you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe, and all that YouTube jazz. I love this. I enjoyed it. You know, I love learning about this and seeing what's going on with the world, especially our neighboring countries. But yeah.